And this week, we are in Massachusetts. Now, I have to admit, as a New Yorker, there's a lot I don't like about Massachusetts. But let's not start with my least favorite things about the state. Let's start with my new favorite. And that is the Dr. Seuss Museum in Springfield. When you walk through the archway, you are indeed entering the amazing world of Theodore Seuss Geisel, also known as Dr. Seuss, the world's most famous author of children's books. Filled with quirky personal mementos and theme rooms dedicated to his most famous characters, it was a wonderful afternoon in what is essentially a wonderful memento to an American who, though he died in 1991, continues to entertain children and the adults who read to them. And to quote my favorite Dr. Seuss book, "Oh, the places you'll go," it reminded me to think and wonder and think. There was plenty of time to wonder during the walk at my next stop, my walk around Walden Pond. Yes, the Walden Pond of Walden, the book by Henry David Thoreau. Thoreau, a Harvard graduate, abolitionist, and naturalist, lived in the woods by Walden Pond in what today we might call a tiny house. It was his attempt to get back to basics and live more in harmony with nature. Thoreau once said, "I suppose that what in other men is religion, is in me love of nature." It reminds me, I used to take my niece and two of my nephews to what I called outdoor church. On a sunny Sunday, we would hike through the woods and play in streams. And when they got home, they would tell their mom how Auntie said, God made the outdoors, so sometimes it was okay to go to outdoor church. And that's where I feel like I'm at today. From the beauty of nature to the ways humans have found to destroy it. The American whaling industry flourished from the late 1700s to the mid-1800s. Whaling ships, for all of their beauty and intricacy, were floating meat processing plants. It was a horrific and deadly industry, not only for the whales, but for the ship's crew as well. And although commercial whaling is a much smaller industry today, the population of the sperm whale, once estimated at over 1 million, is still recovering and is estimated at only 300,000 worldwide. I needed some cheering up, so I headed to Cape Cod, and I went on a whale watching cruise. It was fantastic. Whales and dolphins are smart. Flat out intelligent. The part of the brain that processes emotions, theirs is more complicated than ours. They communicate amongst each other, they have family structures, and they have an awareness of self that we like to think is unique to human beings. It's not. And although I love a good zoo, and I understand the need for them, seeing these creatures wild and free in their natural habitat was one of the most amazing experiences of my life.
That is the cow. So this is Echo's calf. This is a baby, folks, coming right in next to us here at 1 o'clock. As we all know, small mammals have much more energy and tend to be much more curious than the older ones. And probably at this point in time, coming right back up here at 1 o'clock, this calf is checking us out. What a fantastic look at this calf. Coming right back up here, folks. This calf is going to look right at you guys. Its eye is open. It is looking at all of you people on the bow here. And there's its fluke as it does a headstand. It's like, hey, Mom, do you know these things?
the event that you don't remember or weren't around for Saturday morning Schoolhouse Rock lessons, Plymouth Rock is an actual rock in Plymouth Harbor where the Pilgrims from the Mayflower allegedly landed in North America. Pilgrims, in the other words, were America's first immigrants. And let's think about the immigrant story for a second. It's one of people so desperate to leave the life they have. Or maybe they're so hopeful about the life they could have that they are brave enough to step into a dangerous unknown. To take their children, all of their possessions, and back then, to board a ship, or today, to board a plane, or a train, or to set off on foot to a place they've never seen and leave everything they know behind. The bravery, the strength that takes, it's amazing, and it's something to celebrate. And that's the American spirit. But before there was such a thing as America, much less an American spirit, we had to avoid becoming Bermuda, Scotland, Wales. You get where I'm going with this. No offense to the Queen. You all know I love her. But George III was not for us. So that's how I found a way to enjoy Boston. By enjoying some early American history, as found on the Freedom Trail. The Freedom Trail is a 2.5-mile walk through Boston, clearly outlined by charming red bricks. There are 16 stops on the trail that highlight important places or moments, most of which led up to the Revolutionary War. It begins at Boston Common, the nation's oldest public park. After taking a literal walk through the park, my next stop was the Park Street Church and the Granary Burial Ground, the final resting place of John Hancock, Samuel Adams, Paul Revere, and roughly 4,997 other notable Boston citizens. Further down the red brick road, I came to the old State House, which serves as a backdrop for a small plaque which marks the site of the Boston Massacre. If you could see me, you'd know I'm using finger quotes here. In actuality, out of a rioting crowd of 200 stone-throwing colonists, British soldiers killed 5 men. Yes, massacre was a bit of hyperbole. I finally found some food at our next stop, Faneuil Hall. Faneuil Hall was another meeting place that held gatherings that would lead to the American Revolution. Today, the first floor satisfies another American passion: food. Built in 1680, the Paul Revere House, which is the oldest building in Boston, is literally just what it says. Paul Revere's house. He lived here for 30 years. On the night of Paul Revere's midnight ride, a signal was sent from the Old North Church, which had the highest tower in Boston at the time, to the people of Charlestown, indicating whether the British forces were coming, 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. And if you're wondering, there were 2 lanterns in the tower that night. They were coming by sea. Speaking of the sea, I was on my way to see Old Ironside as I walked by the next stop on the Freedom Trail, Copp's Hill Burying Ground. I find old cemeteries oddly beautiful, but also somewhat disconcerting. But then again, I was the weird kid who used to hold my breath whenever I would ride my bike past a cemetery, which was by my house. I thought it was disrespectful to breathe when they couldn't. I was such a weird little kid. But yeah, so cemeteries are a quick stop for me, and then moving right along. Right along to the USS Constitution, also known as Old Ironside. The USS Constitution was one of the first 6 warships built by our young country. It got the nickname Old Ironsides during the War of 1812, when it seemed as if the 18-inch British cannonballs could not penetrate the hull. It was actually due to a clever design and to the density of American oak. Think of it as the Teflon Don of wood. The final stop on the Freedom Trail is Bunker Hill. The famous Battle of Bunker Hill actually took place at a place called Breed's Hill. It was the first significant battle of the Revolutionary War that, technically speaking, we lost. But emotionally, we won big. A ragtag group of Americans, outnumbered 3-1, actually reduced to throwing rocks when their gunpowder ran out. The poorly prepared colonists held off 2 charges by the best army in Europe. That's like me having a cartwheel competition against Simone Biles. Bunker Hill convinced many skeptics that patriotic heart, dare I say American spirit, just might win the day. My week in Massachusetts was a lot more fun than I thought it would be. And as I continue my trip, the words of Dr. Seuss travel with me. Be your name Buxbaum, or Bixby, or Bray, or Mordecai Alley Von Allen O'Shea, you're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. I'll see you next week. Like, subscribe, and let me know, where should I go in your state? See you soon.